There was a Chihuahua walking outside.
Yes.
I don't know. So are you for or against Chihuahua? There's an opening question for today's show. Are
Yeah.
you
Last
for
time I
or
was
against
Cologne.
Chihuahua?
Are we pro Chihuahua or I've known some very fine Chihuahuas in my time.
Mm,
We had a neighbor at the coffee shop I used to work with. This little Chihuahua named Bruce. He was unbelievably tiny and so incredibly hectic. And it was always very fun when he would come over and join us. In fact, if he ever got out, like he'd frequently break out of the house, they'd leave a door open or whatever. He'd come running
yeah.
over to the coffee shop to say hi to us. Don't tell the health
Oh, that's
inspector, but
awesome.
he'd
So
come
hey,
running in
I
to
think
visit.
it just depends on the personality of the type of dog because I've had like super chill Chihuahua buddies and just completely hyper spazzed out Chihuahua buddies, and the spazzed out ones are never fun. They bite everybody and are not nice. It doesn't really matter what kind of dog either. Like we had the super chill husky who would just roll over and like make you up his belly, and then the
Mhm.
super hyper husky who would like jump and try to hump your leg. And the hyper ones are never the fun ones, right? They're not trained well. And so yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think it matters
it's
about the breed. I think it
you
matters
know what?
about the personality of the
It's
dog.
it's a Chihuahua by Chihuahua basis. That's all you can say. We actually pet sat a Chihuahua not that long ago, and he was, I guess you'd call him chill, but he was like inert. He would just kind of sit on the bed and do nothing,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
and then maybe he would sort of whine a little bit, so you'd come over and pet him, but he wouldn't fetch, he wouldn't run around, he wouldn't chase you, he would just kind of sit there.
Right, right. We used to have a half boxer, half pit bull, and you didn't take it for a walk; it took you for a walk.
Oh my
And
god.
because he's just all muscle, just pure muscle, and like as a puppy, like he doesn't know anything better, and it's gonna train him still. But he would just grab you, and it was a choker chain, so we're trying to train him, and he didn't care. The chain would be choking him. He's like, doesn't matter. I'm taking you for the ride, and he would just go, and like it's a like
Yeah,
60, 80 pounds of just pure muscle, and it's like I don't care how strong you are, human, you're coming with me, and it was
yeah,
great.
a friend of mine had a big black lab, and she had one of those choker collars, and I was like, oh no, you got one of those choker collars, I heard those are terrible. She's like, listen, I'm a small female, if this guy wants to go and I don't have a choker collar on him, there's nothing I can do.
To
So
stop him.
yeah, it doesn't, and it's like it's up to him. If he doesn't pull, it won't choke him. So it's up to him how much it chokes him. And
Yeah, absolutely. There you
you
go.
know,
So I'm here wearing my scarf, my hoodie, and my jacket because I literally ran in the house from the outside. Because it's
yeah,
like, oh crap, hey Dan, can we do the show like half an hour later? And you're like, yeah, sure.
yeah,
I'm just hustling here. And
yeah. And
so the
you're
today's topic will be interesting.
yeah, yeah. You're running all frazzled from running outside. I'm all frazzled from trying to build a client's website right now. It's proving difficult. And so
Right.
neither of us put any effort into deciding a topic today. So what do we do? Chat
Chat
GPT.
GPT. All
Turn it
right.
over to the
That that
AI.
that being said, let's play the let's
Oh
play
yeah,
the
let's
intro.
start the show.
So hang on a second here. We got to share the audios
Earl and the idiot and the AI.
and the that's awesome. Here we go.
Welcome to Earl and the Idiot, the show that gives you the answers you need to take your business to the next level. With Earl Flormata, one of Vancouver's most sought-after business and marketing consultants, author of Business Engine Optimization, consultant to over 60 successful businesses, an all-around evil marketing genius with a combined total of more than $70 million worth of sales to his credit. And some idiot. Okay, here we go.
See, when I make this face, when I do this face,
Yeah.
I think in my head I look like Robert De Niro, going,
Right.
but I actually look more like Beaker from the Muppets,
There you
me,
go.
me. So that's embarrassing. So yes,
Beaker is my favorite though. There's this one skit where Beaker just sets stuff on fire and everything burns to the ground, and it's hilarious. That's my favorite thing to watch from the Muppets.
I believe that's every skit.
Yes. So there you go.
we were going to talk a little bit before we get into the AI portion of there. We were going to talk a little bit about this banking collapse everyone's
Yeah.
worried about.
The bank, the world is ending because the banks
Yeah.
are falling over.
It's just such an interesting thing. Like I know we got a mutual friend, and I have a few people that are just starting to pull out their I told you so's. They've been sitting on a big giant pile of I told you so's for 5-6 years now, and they're starting to pull them out. But
It's
the collapse
funny.
isn't quite bad enough for an I told you so yet, but
Oh
We'll
no,
see.
it is as bad as I told you so. But like it's funny, like it's hitting close to home as well. So one of my vendors, like a brand new vendor,
Yeah.
who I'm trying to pay, did bank at the Collapsy Bank, right? So
Yeah.
and I almost paid them at the collapsing bank.
Oh,
And
geez.
luckily, like I was watching the news, I saw where the payment was going. I'm like, wait a sec, do you really want this to go there? And they're like, no, please don't send
Yeah.
it there. Please send it to this other bank account. And so now I have instructions on how to pay them. I mean, they're my vendor. I want to pay them. I want a nice, long, happy business relationship with these people. And I want to make sure they actually get their money. So I'm going to put it in not a bank that's collapsing. So,
Yeah.
so there you go.
Well, you know the expression, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Yes.
You know where that comes from?
No.
That was I forget which president, FDR,
Okay.
Roosevelt. I forget. Yeah, I think it was FDR who was president during the time of the depression, the big Black Friday stock market crash,
Yeah.
right? And he was when he says the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. He's making the point that it's the fear of the collapse of the banking system that will collapse the banking system.
Right.
Right. And so he's like, everybody just chill out, leave your money where it is, and everything's going to be okay.
But if you all do a bank run at the same time, you will collapse the bank.
Yeah. So it's really teetering on a knife edge right now. If everyone loses faith in the banking system and pulls their money, it's gone. It's a house of cards. There's nothing there. But if we continue doing what we're doing, it can remain stable for some time.
Well, here's your martial arts moment.
Yeah.
So I used to teach martial arts and train martial arts for a living. That was my old job. I had to fight people in the ring and stuff, and then teach people how to use knives.
Yeah.
And when you're knife training, when you're knife fighting, the fear of being cut is literally what gets you cut. So if you're scared to get cut and you're going to a knife fight, like in a knife fight, you're 100% getting cut. I don't care if you're a ninja, everyone's getting cut, right?
Yeah.
It's just whoever cuts the best wins, and the one guy dies and one guy goes to the hospital. That's just how it's going to work. But it's the fear of the blade that gets you cut. So you have to welcome the blade, which is a complete, like you said, you have to wait. So the fear of fear, you have to welcome the blade, understanding full well you're going to be cut in this interaction, but understanding that, accepting it, and then moving forward, knowing full well of the risks, you move forward in a calmer fashion, and you move forward with more intent and better structured movement. And the ones that don't give a crap about getting cut because they know they're going to get cut anyways, win. Because I'm going to get cut. Two people with knives are very pokey things, and they're usually the pokey end goes in the bad guy, and you're each other's bad guy. Y'all getting sliced up. So, but accepting the fact that that guy's holding a knife, I'm holding a knife. This isn't going to end well. But accepting it allows you to make better choices longer term.
Yeah. See, the problem though is with the banking thing. You say, okay, nobody panic, everything's fine, and everyone goes, okay, we won't panic, but I would like to have some cash on hand. So it's hard to get everyone to agree to not try to pull their cash out all at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Have you heard of the thing called the prisoner's dilemma?
Yes. I couldn't recite it, but I get the idea. It's like you have to trust the other guy's also not going to screw you over.
Well, yeah, it's two parties separated. You can't communicate. Each must choose between either a cooperating play or not cooperating play. If both of them cooperated, the net result is better. But if the other guy screws you, you get completely hosed. So it's can I trust the other person sight unseen? And it's literally the prisoner's dilemma. Okay, if you don't withdraw all your money, I won't withdraw all my money. But if you withdraw some money, I'll also withdraw some money. And it's just the Mexican standoff with how much did you withdraw? Right.
And do you trust other people not to run on the bank? That's
right. And if everybody else runs on the bank and they pull all their money out and you're left holding the bag, it's the prisoner's dilemma. But it's usually the prisoner's dilemma is like a two-party thing. This is like a multivariate, multi-party, multi-everything thing, because some people have $1 billion in the bank and some people have 3 cents. So it's like it makes for interesting times to live in, though, right?
Wasn't
that a blessing and a curse when you live in interesting times?
Yeah, exactly.
There's only so much interesting that you want.
The decision that the Biden administration made, I can't see any better one, which was it feels kind of gross, but it's like, yeah, what are you gonna do? Like, I'm glad they're not gonna bail out the bank. Like, they're letting the bank collapse. So the people who screwed up, who did the banking wrong,
Mhm.
are gonna suffer. They're losing their jobs, they're losing their investments. Shareholders in the bank are missing out, but they're guaranteeing the deposits
Right.
100%, right? Which I understand, like, like your startup friend, like there's tons of tech startups, like those are guys I really feel for, right? They're trying to
Mhm.
be entrepreneurs and do exactly what we're trying to coach people on doing here. And they got the rug pulled out from under them through no fault of their own. They invested in a bank that Forbes, like last month, said was one of the top 5 banks in America. You know what I mean? Jim
There-
Cramer just gave it his seal of approval.
there was this awesome meme on LinkedIn just like this morning, where it's like Forbes has the best track record ever, and it has
Oh yeah,
like everything that's ever blown up and caught on fire is on the front page of Forbes, and it's kind of
yeah, like
hilarious. So it's like, yeah, we
Theranos
totally
and
called
Sam
it.
Bankman-Fried and everybody.
Totally called it. So,
Yeah.
anyways, so speaking of failures and things
Yes.
catching on fire and exploding, that's
Right.
today's topic.
Yes.
Through shameless AI usage, we pulled the topic, why do most businesses fail?
I like it.
And then asked ChatGPT to pull reasons why businesses fail. And that is now our speaking notes
Yeah,
for today's
exactly.
today's session.
We'll
And
go through these notes.
legitimately, they're pretty good notes. Like, I gotta admit, I'm like, oh yeah. So we asked ChatGPT the question, why do most businesses fail? And this is what it came back with.
Yeah.
So
it
and we
says,
can,
yeah. And that's the thing, like I said, the big problem with AI is, yeah, sure, it can parse the language, but does it understand truth? Right? It can get
Yeah.
you if you like lie about, why, tell me a lie about why gravity works or something. It could come up with a real convincing sounding explanation of how gravity works. It's not true.
right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why we need our resident Earl to make sure these things are actually true. But I,
But
as the
these
idiot,
were
can read
like
them.
the headliners on these things, the main points are really solid, and I'm dutifully impressed. I didn't read like every single last bit of the text. I mean, it made a giant wall of text, but
Yeah.
the
Oh, that
the
is a good
the
wall of text.
headlines, the stuff right after the numbers, where it's like numbers
Yeah.
1 through 8,
The
are
bullet
really
points.
solid, truly solid. So there we go.
All
Why
right.
don't we take off with
Dive
talking
right
point
into it.
number 1,
All
dive right into it.
Yeah.
Post dogs, post bank, post AI,
Yeah.
and we dive right in.
So yeah. So the AI hedges its bets at the beginning here and says there are many reasons why most businesses fail, and the exact reasons can vary depending on the industry, market, and individual circumstances of each business. Should I read it in a robot voice? However, here are some of the common reasons why businesses fail. So there it goes. Right
If
there.
you could read it like Arnold Schwarzenegger as a Terminator, that'd be fantastic. Speaking of which, have you tried getting ChatGPT to write stuff as other people? It's
No.
creepy as hell.
Oh my God, that's good.
We made it once write an SEO article in the voice of David Attenborough, and it did. And
Oh my
I could
God.
hear his voice. It was creepy as hell. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I do a good David Attenborough. My David Attenborough is pretty solid. Let's see how my Schwarzenegger / Terminator is. Lack of planning. Many businesses fail because they do not have a clear plan and how they would achieve their goals.
There you
That's
go.
That's a little too animated. That's too Arnold. It's not enough robot. I'll try it again.
There you go.
Yeah. So lack of planning. What do you think? Is AI right on this one?
The AI on lack of planning, I didn't understand how cowboy and how westernly run, and like by westernly run I mean like cowboy style, where it's just shoot from the hip, most businesses function. It is appalling to me how many businesses, because when we were we were just barely 20 and we started building a business, and there were 4 of us in the partnership, and we're just trying to assemble stuff together. And this was like a dog's breakfast. It was the worst thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. I'd worked for big corporations my life up until then. And big corporations, you think they have their stuff together until you open the hood and look inside. And the hilarious thing is, our little dinky corporation, it barely made like $500,000. Like, was not in the grand stretch of thing, and like it was a rounding error for most. And $500,000, and we thought it was sheer chaos until we started implementing for the big guys. And the big guys were chaos wrapped in chaos, wrapped in a cat, wrapped in a blanket, thrown over a bridge. I'm like, this is insanity. Like this, most businesses function in this pure chaos. Like there's like zero planning half the time. So, you go through school, you think that people have a business plan and people make these things. So they have a plan for their business. And then they do, and then they promptly throw it on the shelf and never look at it ever again. There's just sitting there collecting dust. I'm like, wait, there's no plan for what we're supposed to do next. And this is corporation after corporation after corporation. And like, these are not small corporations sometimes. These are like large government bodies. But again, I guess, it's an oxymoron, government service, right? So
yeah, it almost seems like it's almost the reverse. Like the couple of businesses that do succeed are planned. All the rest of them are not planned. And actually some of the successful ones just happen to make the right moves at the right time without a plan.
Right place, right time. But I do believe that having some structured plan. So the guy we modeled this show after, Carl Bryan, right? He has this wonderful saying: if you motivate an idiot, they'll just do dumb stuff faster. Right? So, so the lack of planning, if nobody knows which direction to row the boat, and everybody just starts rowing, and everyone's rowing different directions, the boat's just going to spin in circles and do nothing, right? So even if you have a terrible plan and say everybody go that way, and everyone goes that general direction, like 85% of, actually screw it, even 60% of people are rowing in the right direction, the boat will slowly inch in the right direction. So a bad plan is better than no plan.
I've heard that. I think they say that in the Army. Any plan, if boldly executed, is better than no plan at all.
Yeah.
And speaking as an idiot, I definitely have a lack of planning in my own life. It's definitely a shortcoming I have. Luckily, my girlfriend is very into planning things out, so we kind of balance each other out. I've gotten very good at coping with chaos, and I kind of thrive on it. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, even if we use this show as a microcosm, some of our best shows were just off the cuff. Hey, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
And some of the best shows were, hey, let's actually plan this thing out and think our way through what we're going to talk about. So again, but I think we've had more better shows that were planned than better shows that were, completely shot from the hip, right?
Yeah. I think, I think that the entrepreneurial type person, the mindset, loves a lot of chaos, loves a lot of, I shouldn't say chaos, loves tackling difficulties, which involves chaos. If everything's perfectly planned out, there's no chaos. So it's like, you gotta balance that. I think you need a proper balance of, here's the plan, but then there's the chaos of sometimes the plan, falls short or doesn't work or needs to be adjusted. And I think there's a happy medium in there where it's planned out enough to be successful, but chaotic enough to keep you interested.
But there's here's a funny play on words for that, right? It's ready, aim, fire, not ready, aim, maybe fire, right?
Yeah.
And the ones that are usually successful though are completely the opposite way around, or ready, fire, aim. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But
that's me.
But the ones that end up being more successful over time are ready, fire, aim, fire, aim, fire, aim, fire, and readjust and adjust along the way. And lack of planning either way, you're gonna have to make an adjustment because what was it? Mike Tyson said everyone's got a plan to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So there you go. Then you have to make adjustments.
Right. We'll move on to the next one in a second, but I was having a conversation with my dad one time, and he's like, "Well, what are you going to do, or what's your plan here?" And I was like, "I have no idea. I'm just kind of winging it." And he said something that has almost become my I almost considered it getting it tattooed because it's such a way I live my life. He said, "Well, I guess you can't fail if you don't have a plan."
That's true.
I translated it into Latin at one point. I was thinking of getting the tattoo of the Latin.
That would be magic. You have to get like an outline of your face with that, and you have to be like sketched as like a Greek thinker.
Oh yeah, kind of like the turn to the side with the carved marble statue of me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure if you asked AI
I was just thinking that
a carved marble statue, upload a bunch of pictures of your face and said, "Make me look like something, please," you'll be,
mediocrities.
Mediocrities. This is awesome.
All right. Let's keep going here. Let's return to the AI. Oh, that was bad. Insufficient capital. Businesses need money to start and to keep going. Many businesses fail because they did not have enough capital to cover their expenses and investments in the early stages.
There you
Might
go.
have to stop. Might have to stop with the impression.
I was kidding. Maybe we give that one up. But
Yeah.
insufficient capital makes absolute sense. If you don't have enough money for the runway, and you don't realize how long the runway has to be, most people don't give themselves enough time or money to execute what they need to execute to get to the end of the road here. And I agree with that. Insufficient capital, right? Like some business ventures are underfunded. Now, that doesn't mean every business venture has to raise a bunch of money every single time, because you can still bootstrap stuff. But even in a bootstrap mentality, insufficient capital is a thing. Because if you don't have enough capital to make it from point A to point B, if you don't make payroll, everyone quits, right? So you still have to have at least enough money to get from point A to point B, even if you're just scraping by. Technically, scraping by is sufficient capital, right?
Yeah.
So
the raising capital and the investment and angel investors and all that kind of stuff, that's so beyond my pay grade. Like practically the reason I started a marketing company is you just need a laptop and some know-how.
Right.
I
There you
don't
go.
get that stuff at
But
all.
the thing is, but there's even insufficient capital in your category. What if you didn't have enough money for a domain? What if you didn't have enough money for hosting? So let me flip the script on you, right? Here in Canada, it's easy. It says pocket change for a domain and pocket change for hosting stuff. But let's pretend that you didn't grow up here. Let's pretend you grew up in Africa, right? Or you grew up in an impoverished country where $6 for a domain for the year is food for your whole family for a week, right?
Right.
So do we eat for a week or do we starve for a week, get the domain name? Oh wait, there's hosting. Oh shoot, right? Yeah. So there's that too, right? So it depends. Like insufficient capital is insufficient capital, no matter how you slice it, no matter which industry you're in. And you don't necessarily need a lot to get going. You can bootstrap stuff, but you just need enough to get by, right? So just thinking your way through stuff. So people who don't have enough to make the business go, just put a little more aside, live on less. Eat the ramen for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But that's pretty straightforward. You don't have the, I mean, is there some tip you can give for figuring out how much capital you need? Like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't even know what math to do on it.
It's really simple. All you need to do is take an educated guess as to how long you think it'll take from point A to point B, where point A is now, and B is we're making a little bit of money, right? Yeah. And then you have to just figure out what the burn rate is. How much do I have to pay each month to not die, and so my staff don't die between point A and point B, and that's how much capital you require as a guesstimate. Now, you might require less if you execute really well, and all of a sudden, hey, look, we can feed everybody. We don't have to borrow any more money, right? But if you're wrong, make sure you have some padding there for stuff that does end up going sideways, because you never know what the obstacle is that's going to pop in your way, right? So, and tying that back to the bank stuff, like who knew that your bank is going to explode? You're going to have to open a new bank account, and all the money in your current bank account might be at risk, right? Like nobody plans for that. I don't care how much lack of planning or planning you do. It's like, oh yeah, and the bank's going to explode on Thursday. So, so
yeah, well, you'll see banks fail from lack of capital due to the collapse of SVB, won't we?
Right.
Well, I guess we won't now because the government's backstopping it, but that's why they had to.
But we'll see how it plays out. Like it's yet to be seen, right? As of this recording, we still don't know how this thing ends, right? So there we go.
All right. Should I read the next? Should I read the next one like David Attenborough now?
If you want.
I told you my Attenborough is good. This isn't written in the style of Attenborough, but poor management. Business owners who lack the skills and knowledge to effectively manage their businesses can struggle to make sound decisions, properly allocate resources, and navigate the challenges of nature.
There you go. Of nature.
Of nature,
like
yeah.
So poor management. It goes back to the lack of planning, right?
That's pretty broad, isn't it?
If the boss man, well, I've worked for places with poor management, lack of planning, but sufficient capital, and it still blew up because the sufficient capital soon became insufficient capital because, like I said in the earlier quote, if you motivate an idiot to just do dumb stuff faster, if the management in charge is pointing the boat in the wrong direction, I don't care how good of a rower you are, right? You're still all gonna Titanic this thing. It's still gonna sink, right? So management is pretty important.
Right. Here's a philosophical question for you. is a good manager, is that an innate quality, or can a good manager be made?
A good manager can be trained.
Yeah.
A good manager can be trained, but it's the management part is the skill set. The attitude part is the part that we don't have time to train. You could train both. You could train for both attitude and
Mhm.
skill. The issue with attitude, it takes much longer to train, right? So
What's the attitude of a good manager?
I'm a big believer in the servant model,
Which?
the servant leader
Yeah.
model,
Yeah.
right? So the servant leader model is I run around asking my team, my staff, my people, hey, is there anything I can do? What do you need? What do you need to be successful? And then get out of their damn way. Right? Why did I
Yeah.
hire them for? Because they're better than me at that particular thing. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to help them do their job better, right? So
Mhm.
I run around literally asking people, what can I do to help? And I'm a big believer in that servant leader model. If I help the team and I empower the team, right? Because the wrong side of the coin is I'll just do it myself. I'll just do it myself. I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
And if I just do it myself, why did I hire them in the first place? Right? I'm just going to sit there and
Mhm.
micromanage them. Nobody enjoys that. And it's a lose-lose situation where I'm spending all my time looking over their shoulder going, why the hell did I hire this person? And then they're also thinking, why the hell did they hire me? He's going to sit here and watch me do it. Right? It's just like, isn't the point of hiring people so you can go do other stuff? Yeah, exactly. So poor management, if you manage incorrectly, that means your people need you at every turn to pull every trigger and every decision. Right. A
Mhm.
good manager goes, okay, this is what I need you to do. You're confident in this spot. I trust you for this space. Go do. Right.
Yeah.
But in terms of like risk management for the company, when you don't know the person, don't give them any access to stuff that would turn the company upside down. Right. So
Hmm.
our mutual friend Kayvon has this really cool model where he akins trust like a tree. Right. So there's the leaves, there's the branches, right? There's the trunk, and then there's the roots.
Hmm.
You screw with the roots, the whole damn tree dies. So any of those root level decisions should be saved for upper level management or the owners, right?
Yeah.
And then you got the trunk, right? Again, upper level management owners, and now we're looking at VPs, senior level management, that sort of thing. The branches, that's why there's a branch manager, right? Like if the branch falls off, tree doesn't die, we're okay, right? If the little leaves fall off, again, we're not dead here. So trust your people with whatever level of responsibility that's appropriate for their station, right? Don't give the intern the keys to the plutonium and hope he doesn't blow up the world, right?
Mhm.
Oops, sorry, boss, I spilled coffee on the. Oh God, we're all going to die. And so, give them appropriate access, right? But trust them in the appropriate access, right? And just realize the risks that you give them with the appropriate access, but that comes with the territory. Because if you never give them that trust, they'll never learn how to use it, right?
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
you
I
go.
think a lot of people think that a manager has to be a jerk. There's this idea that it's like you have to be tough and mean and rude and all this stuff. And it's like, I think you got to be tough, but you can be kind and tough at the same time,
Yes, absolutely. But I used to teach again martial arts, and I learned this during martial arts training. It was the correction sandwich: compliment, correct, compliment, right?
Hmm.
And give them a sincere compliment, right? You did this really well. Good job balancing. Good job doing
Hmm.
this. Like, and it's a sincere compliment. You actually think that that is a good attribute or a good practice or a good habit of theirs.
Hmm.
Then you correct them, and then once they adjust the behavior so that they're more on tune with what the company would like to see, you compliment them again saying, hey, good job implementing that. You've
Yeah.
come a long way. That's fantastic, right? And it's not from a manipulative standpoint, right? I'm
Yeah.
saying that the original compliment has to come from the heart. You actually have to like their hair if you compliment their
Mhm.
hair, right? You have to actually like their scarf or their shirt or whatever the hell you're complimenting. If you're actually complimenting it. And then the second compliment is even more important when you acknowledge the fact that they're now rowing the boat in the right direction.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
fantastic work.
Mhm.
I see you went from here to here. Really good job. And then acknowledge them for that. Right.
I've actually worked at a business where management believed it was like harmful to compliment people,
Yeah. I've seen
you know,
those.
and
Those burn
that's
to
not
the ground
pleasant.
real quick.
Oh yeah, it was
Right. I
tough
mean,
at times.
let's go back to our original topic of dogs.
Yeah. Okay.
Positive reinforcement to the dog versus negative reinforcement to the dog works faster.
Yeah.
In dog training, in leadership, in management, positive reinforcement works better.
Yeah.
And then
Carrot works better than stick.
in that regard, yes, absolutely. I used to teach kids martial arts. Trying to get a bunch of 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and 5-year-olds to stand in a row without punching each other is a whole nother challenge unto itself, right?
Yeah.
So what I did, instead of saying get in line, stop hitting Timmy, da 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 da, I go, everybody look at Dave. Look how well he's sitting, standing. Look at the stance he's in, da 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 da. Everybody should learn from Dave, be like Dave. And everyone looks at Dave and then copies Dave. And then I just one by one through the row and the ranks compliment every 3-year-old who copied Dave. And all of a sudden they're beaming like hell because like, oh, I did right. He said I'm good, right?
That's fantastic. And how great does Dave feel?
Dave is now the champion, and Dave is now the shining example of how to behave, how to do that move, da 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 da. So everybody wins, right? And
now everybody wants to be Dave too. Oh, he did a good job. I want that compliment.
Right. But then it's the correct compliment sandwich, right? So you compliment Dave, you correct everybody on how they're standing. Now they're standing properly. Their hands are up, actually protecting their face. Important stuff you need to know in a fight, right? And then, good job. And so the hilarious thing was I would do this with a big, it's a giant pillow on a stick, right? And when they weren't covering their face like they were supposed to, I'd whack them in the head with the pillow and stick. It was fun. It didn't hurt. It was just humiliating, right?
And
when I whacked Dave, because his hands are up, I go, Dave, look at your hands. You did a really good. You didn't even have to move to block that stick. Way to go, Dave. And then I would walk past Timmy, whack. Hey, Timmy, be like Dave.
wonder how Dave's doing now. Sounds like a good guy.
So there you go.
All right, let's look at this next one. I love this next one. I'll just say it in my normal voice. I could do Alex Jones as well. We'll save that. Lack of market demand. A business may have a great idea or product, but if there's not enough demand in the market for it, the business may fail. I see this one so much. You see some business open up and it's like, we polish French vases or something, and they open up on Robson Street and you're like, what? That's not going to work. And then sure enough, it doesn't.
I have no idea. There's a couple of businesses that are in my area. I have no idea how they're still alive to this day. Right? What do you guys sell? Rocks and gems. What? Right? There was this one store in downtown that only sold tribal African stuff like drums and like horns and like whatever. And I'm like, that's a really niche subject. How the hell do you stay alive? Like, is there really that much of a market for African drums in Vancouver? Right? I'm like, oh, I guess so. And so lack of market demand is a real thing. You have to make sure that, whatever you're selling, people care about. Right. So, and that's and the biggest issue is that the owner caters to themselves. And that's the greatest, sin in marketing, where the owner is catering to themselves. Well, I want one of these things. So I think everybody wants one of these things. You still have to test the market demand for the damn thing to see if people care. Right. And if there's not enough of a market demand, don't import it, because the import tax will kill you.
I always go back to the story of the guy that opened up a fine French cuisine restaurant across the street from a massive factory full of working class Joes.
Right.
That can't afford the
foie gras.
Yeah, or don't care about it. Ew, gross.
Right.
And I think he put like $200,000.
You do what to a duck?
He put $200,000 worth of wine in the cellar and then promptly went out of business.
Yeah, exactly. No, right.
So
market fit.
This is kind of a lack of planning thing, though, because this is like the lack of market demand. That's something you should establish a long time ahead of raising capital or doing anything else. Like lack of market demand. Like you should make sure there's a market demand before you do anything, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, the lack of planning and the lack of market demand are very different things. I could plan the crap out of selling crystalline cats. But if anybody wants to buy these damn things, if I didn't check that, I could have the best plan for crystalline cat distribution in the world. But if nobody wants to buy one, I sold 7 of them to the only 7 customers in the whole world who never want this thing. The problem is that I've sold all 7 to all the 7 people in the world who want this stupid thing. Game over, right? So planning was great. Market demand, not so much.
The checking the market demand should sort of go ahead of the planning. It should be like the step 0.
I don't think these were in any particular order. I think this is like, here are a list of ways that you can fail. Right?
No, but so, I'm saying, but I'm just saying generally.
Yeah, market demand should be a very first thing. Hey, would anybody buy this? Cool, right?
Yeah. one of my favorite ones, I always use this example. I may have just said it on the show before, but too bad. On the Dragon's Den in the UK,
Mhm.
this woman, I think she was like a realtor or something, was traveling, and she had she stayed at a bathroom. She stayed at a bathroom, stayed at a hotel in like Hungary or somewhere in Europe.
That's a fancy
And
bathroom.
yeah, right. And it had one of those, the shower head that's you hold it in your hand, right?
Right.
But there was nothing on the wall. There was no rack on the wall to hang it. It was hanging on top of the taps.
Right.
So in order to shower, you had to bend down, pick it up, and then shower yourself with it and put it back down again to soap up or whatever. And she went, geez, someone should make a suction cup based rack hook so you can hang this thing on the wall. And she'd taken her winnings from being a successful real estate agent and sunk like 200 grand or something into building a prototype for this. And the Dragons are like, what is the matter with you? That's so insanely niche. Like, your market is what? People who travel, people who really can't deal with having to hold a shower hose for the time they're staying at this hotel. And in hotels where the wall is suction cup-able, which
Right.
isn't always the case. It might be tile or rock or something where you can't stick
Right.
a suction cup on it.
Absolutely.
And people have to want to actually carry this bulky apparatus in their luggage when they travel for this one time they might need it in that one bathroom sometimes.
And the
It was
moment
the
the
le-
Chinese manufacturers see it, they're like, "Hey, cool, we can make that for 17 cents."
Yeah,
Uh,
sell it to the hotel, for God's sake.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right. So no, I get it. So yeah, a lack of market demand is super important.
It was the least market demanding thing I've ever come across. I forgot to notice what time we started because we're so off schedule here. So I don't know how long we've been at this. How much
We
more
have been
does
at
ChatGPT?
this for about 40 minutes now, I think. Is
Oh my gosh. We're usually
how
starting to
long
wrap
we've
it
been
up at
doing
this
this.
point.
We got about 20 minutes left to wrap this up. So we got 4 more to go. We can bang these off, and then we'll do
All
the
right.
hack of the week.
Competitors. Many industries face intense competition. This one's a tough one. You never want to blame your competitors. You always want to be in the position of being causative, right?
Well, no, actually, in the competitor space, the reason why the business fails is that the business's own fault. So we remember we were making fun of this, where if you look up your niche and you look up 30 other people's websites,
Mhm.
and all your websites look the same, it's not the competitor's fault, it's yours. Right. So if
Right.
you don't have a differentiation, if you don't have a market dominating position, you don't have a unique sales proposal for your space, then there's no differentiation between you and your competitors. Then the entire thing just falls to the price. And if you guys have a price war, the bigger person wins. But the problem is they die in the long run because the race to zero is inevitable, right? Because you just devalued the crap out of the thing. So if you die because of competitors, it's because you didn't differentiate yourself enough from said competitors. Like, if you differentiate yourself enough, people will leave the competitor and come to you because you fix a problem that the competitors can't.
See,
So there you
now I lived in fear of this when I was doing the coffee shop.
Right.
I differentiated myself from my competitors. Pretty much all the other competitors were just chain coffee shops, no personality. So we had a lot of personality, a lot of heart. We wanted to be a place where people could hang out, like, we had couches, like spend the day, and musical instruments on the wall. You can hang, totally different. But I was living in fear of what if someone down the road opens up another small time quaint coffee shop. So like, what do you do if someone you're in the market doing your thing and someone hops into the market, just copies you? Do you have to change yourself to
You
defeat them?
have to then just define yourself as the OG, the original gangster, and
Mhm.
everyone else is just a copy, right? So
Right.
there's a million copies of shoes, but yet Yeezys still sell for gajillions of dollars, and I don't like Yeezys.
Not anymore. They don't.
Not anymore, they don't. Back in the
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
but like what was the market value of an Air Jordan, right? Like, it's just like, okay, well, people will pay whatever they feel that the value is there, and there's people who can make the exact same shoe, the exact same coffee, the exact same thing, but that coffee shop, that shoe, that whatever, that product doesn't have your USP, your market dominating position,
Mhm.
right? And so so like it could be something as simple as your coffee shop has better conversationalists,
Yeah.
as
That was
simple as
me.
that. Yeah, but that's my point. Your coffee shop has a Dan, theirs doesn't.
Yeah.
Talk to the barista. And after you want to shoot yourself in the head, come over to us and have a real conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how you differentiate from the competitor stand, right? There you go. And,
Yeah.
and which leads perfectly into the next one.
Yes, failure to adapt.
There you
The
go.
business
So if the
environment is
competition
constantly
comes in,
changing.
if they come in and they eat your lunch, it's because you let them eat your lunch, right?
Right.
So if you didn't put something different, right? Like I once coached the coffee shop owner to install mailboxes because he had a lot of business clientele.
Mhm.
And install mailboxes, let the business people come there to pick up their mail, point a fan at the coffee and the muffins, and let the smell waft over to the mailboxes and watch your sales go up. And that it did, right? Like, so failure to adapt. Like, so, he has a coffee shop, there's other coffee shops, he put a mailbox there. That's what differentiated him. None of his competitors had a mailbox, so that's a stupid idea. Didn't realize how many sales he was making of muffins by pointing the fan at the mailbox, because you're standing there picking up your mail anyways. So there you go, failure to adapt. And then moving on to, I guess, the next one.
Legal issues.
You got to
That's
make sure
pretty
that
straightforward.
it's
What's that?
not illegal what you're doing, right? Because then
Yeah.
if that shuts you down, or you're copying somebody or whatever, and they call you on it, then of course you're gonna run into litigation. And at that point, neither business wins, the lawyers win. And everybody but the lawyers, sad.
Yeah, all right, that's pretty straightforward. Stay legal. Economic conditions. This ties back into the SVB Bank, doesn't it? Economic downturns, changes in regulation or
Yes
government policy.
and no, because they were over leveraged
Impact
on
businesses
certain
of all sizes of
bonds.
industries. What?
They were over leveraged on a particular bond, and then when the interest rate flipped and started going up instead of going down, everything turned upside down. So economic conditions, yes, those things can help, hurt, hinder, harm, whatever. Like when the pandemic first came out, we were a functional marketing agency, and then we lost 80-90% of our clientele in one fell swoop, right?
Yeesh.
With economic conditions. But it's that ability to pivot. So the failure to adapt plus economic conditions, if you're in a recession, sell like a recession. If you're in a market boom, sell like a market boom. Your positioning should befit the scenario that you're in, right? And one of the really good books to read from is Art of War, right? Know your enemy, know yourself, know your surrounding, right? And if you're knowing your surrounding, and the economic condition of the surrounding is everything's collapsing, you sell from a collapsing standpoint, right? So if I wanted to sell financial services, right, from a collapsing standpoint, right, do you believe that the economy is in free fall? Do you think we're going to collapse? If the sentiment for the market is in that, oh crap, hold on to your pants, and you do not have sufficient insurance to cover the stuff that you care about, well, then maybe you should start considering buying enough insurance to cover the stuff you care about. So the thing is, though, that won't work as well in a market boom, where you sell insurance completely differently, and you sell from the standpoint of, well, it's booming like crazy. If you gift this house to your children that you spent $100,000 on it, and now it's worth $1 million, if you don't structure this properly, your kids are going to have to pay $283,000 in tax when they sell your home, right? Do you really want your kids to pay that much tax? No, structure it properly. This is why a trust and structures like this are for. Okay, great. That's how you sell in a boom versus when you sell in a bust. And economic conditions, you have to sell the right message at the right time to the right place with people who actually want your stuff, and not the weird travel sticky hanger thing.
Yeah. And she probably failed because of economic conditions, I would think.
Well,
she's probably out there blaming COVID right now. She's saying, well, we were just
market demand.
Yeah, exactly. She's out there blaming COVID right now. She's saying, oh, well, we were about to really take off, and then COVID shut down all the travel. So no one was traveling, so they didn't need suction cup shower hanger things.
Right, exactly.
That's right, sweetheart. You
go.
tell yourself that.
Which brings us to slashy time, I think.
Slashy.
Slashy. So
hold on. Before you do it,
yeah.
ChatGPT wants us to know it's important to note that each business is unique, and the reasons for its success or failure can be complex and multifaceted.
I like how it covers its butt.
Right, exactly. It doesn't want to be responsible for telling you something.
Here you go.
There we go. Hack of the week.
The hack of the week. And we talked about all these things failing. We talked about things going sideways. We talked about like the 8 different ways that businesses can fail. And the hack of the week to not fail is, make the main thing the main thing. So there's this guy named Jerry who is probably going to be one of my next mentors, and I want to be him when I grow up. His biggest thing, because he's worth like mid 8 figures now, and he talked about how much comes in on his business on a regular basis as mailbox money. And I'm like, oh, that's beautiful, right? He makes people's annual incomes monthly on his passive income from his mailbox. And I'm like, that's crazy. And I stole this quote from him: make the main thing the main thing. And that's how come most people fail at their business. They will either procrastinate, or they will avoid the thing that needs to be done most by doing something else. And I'm guilty of that too, right? I don't want to do this thing. Oh, look, there's a giant pile of work over here, and it makes me feel better for doing the work because I'm quote unquote being productive. But I'm not doing the thing I'm supposed to be doing that would make that change in the business that would affect the most amount of people, the most leverageable part, right? So making the main thing is a really good hack of the week for not having your business fall down and fail. So there's your hack of the week. Just focus on the most important thing. There's a really good book called The One Thing. And I believe the one thing structure is based off of what is the one thing that if you did would make everything else either irrelevant or not needed or whatever in your business for that day. And if you can do that one thing every day, and you progress your business by that one thing, it's the hardest thing usually. It's like whatever the hardest thing is for you, right? Like, believe it or not, as a marketing guy, I have a hard time making websites for myself. The hardest time making websites for me. Other people, I will rattle stuff off like this, like this, like this. Here's a bunch of examples, blah, 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 blah. This one worked, this one didn't work. Here's what color you make the damn button. For myself, I sit there staring at the blank thing going, I don't know what to write. So making the main thing, until I eat that frog, the business will not progress. So
I'm sorry, eat the frog?
There's a book called Eat the Frog, and it's the premise is do the most difficult thing that you have to do in the front of the day, which earns you money. And then the rest of the day, it's whatever you want. But eating the frog is difficult, right? Because it's a frog. And nobody wants to because it's a frog. But, if you eat the frog, which is, do the hardest thing that will make your business change the most first in the day, right? And then just stick to it over time.
I'm adding that to my lexicon now. I'm going to go, sorry, honey, got to go eat the frog.
There you go. It's the name of an actual book.
How was it?
Eat the Frog.
Nice. All right. Well, I guess that's it. I think that came off fairly well. If we hadn't said it was AI, no one would have known.
Yeah. This was totally, and this episode brought to you by ChatGPT and Earl and the Idiot, right? So there you go. All right. Well, I'm gonna play the outro. We're good to go.
Let's do it.
Thanks for listening to Earl and the Idiot. We hope you learned something you can take action on this week. For more information or to contact the show, visit earlandtheidiot.com. And until next time, remember what Shakespeare said. The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool.
Oh, I like that effect. All right. Thank you, Earl. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you next week.
Cheers,